Hi everyone, welcome to part 2 of the lab orientation. This is just going to be a short video where I will be outlining some basic rules and guidelines that you guys need to be familiar with before you start participating in studies at the lab. Now, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of the studies that will be posted this term are going to be lab-based studies. However, some studies are also going to be administered online. Now, there's a way to check this on the system itself. So when you log into Sona and when there are some studies posted, there is a way for you to check whether the studies that are posted are online or lab-based. The way to do that is that if you click on the descriptions under each study, you will be able to see some basic details about the study, including the study name, as well as the status of the study, the duration, the credits, as well as the study type. So this is the part that you need to focus on in order to know whether the study is going to be administered online or whether it's going to be lab-based. So a standard lab study indicates that this is a lab-based study, which means that you will have to come to the lab to take it. And I will be mentioning the location to you guys in a bit. If the study is online, we can see that under study type, it's mentioned online external study. So if online external study is mentioned, it means that this is an online study. So if a study is online, there is no need to come to the lab to take it. You can just take it from home or from whichever location you'd prefer. Now, if a study is lab-based, you need to come to the psychology lab to take it. Now, the psychology lab is HSB 1013. And inside the psychology lab, we have a number of different room options. So we have HSB 1014, 1015. These are two computer labs. We have HSB 1016A and B, and these are multi-purpose rooms. And we have HSB 1017, which is an eye tracking lab. All of these different locations are enclosed within the same space, which is HSB 1013. Now, to avoid confusion, we're not going to be mentioning all of these different locations if a study is lab-based. Instead, we're just going to mention HSB 1013 because, again, all of these different room options can be found enclosed within one space. So if a study is lab-based, the exact location for the study will also be specified. And in most cases, it's just going to be HSB 1013. So you just need to come to the psychology lab, which is found in the HSB building itself, same floor as your psychology class, and you can just come to the class to take the study. Now, if a study is lab-based, please make sure to do the following. So you need to bring an identification card with a clear picture of you on it. This can be your Emirates ID, your driver's license, your AUS ID card. Any form of identification should work. Just make sure to bring the actual card with you because copies will not be accepted. So it needs to be a hard copy. You also need to arrive on time, and this is something that I already discussed with you guys. So if a study or if you have signed up for a study that is supposed to start at 11, you have to be there 5 to 10 minutes early, and that's because the door is going to be locked at 11. So please make sure that you're punctual when it comes to attending your sessions. And as I mentioned, we have this rule because we sometimes run back-to-back sessions, and in a lot of cases, it's going to be group-based studies. So we really need to make sure that, everyone is going into the lab and starting the study at the same time. Otherwise, anything can really disrupt the validity of the results that we're going to get. No food or beverages are allowed, and this is true across all of the labs on campus. So if you're eating or drinking anything, please just make sure to leave it behind before you enter the lab. You should be attentive and follow rules. You can only be dismissed when everyone else is done. So basically, if you have signed up for a 30-minute study, let's say that you somehow have managed to finish it in 10 minutes or so, you will not be dismissed early. You will only be dismissed once everyone else is done. So we have this rule because we want you guys to really pay attention when taking studies. Now keep in mind that your responses that goes into these research studies actually ends up in publications or might end up in publications, which means that it can really inform research later on. So it's really important that you guys take it seriously and that you're paying sufficient effort and attention when taking them. So if you have signed up for a 30-minute study, make sure that you're actually dedicating those 30 minutes in order to complete the study. You should treat experimenters with respect. You will be barred from research participation if you mistreat them. We have a lot of research assistants who will be helping us organize a lot of the studies to come. So if you're seen mistreating any of them, you will be barred from research participation and will receive a 0 for this component of the course. So please make sure that you're treating all of them with respect. Now, when it comes to completing studies, keep in mind that participation in all of the studies is completely voluntary as well as optional. At the start of every study, whether online or lab-based, we're going to be providing you guys with what we call a consent form. And this will include information about the study itself, so including what the purpose of the study is, the benefits involved, as well as the risks involved. So if upon reading the consent form you felt like this is probably not a study you'd be comfortable participating in, it's okay. You can just raise your hand, inform the research assistant, and you can basically skip the study without losing any points. Now, just keep in mind that you cannot really do this for each and every study because you won't really have a lot of studies to participate in, which means that you won't be able to fulfill the required 5 credits on the system. So if you think that participating in studies is going to be problematic for you, then I would just recommend that you go with the research alternative option instead. If you do agree to participate in a study, however, you need to give it your undivided attention. You need to finish it all in one sitting, and you should not rush through it. So just make sure that you're giving it the amount of time that is requested of you. If you have signed up for a 20-minute study, please make sure that you are giving the study all of your attention. In case of questions or concerns, you can contact me or you can contact the principal investigator of the study, which is the main person conducting the research. So if you need information about who the principal investigator of the study is, then you can just find all of that details in the consent form itself, which will be provided at the start of every study. Another thing that you should be aware of is what we call the SONA code. This will become really useful when you want to complete online studies, but it can also be useful for some lab-based studies as well. Now, what's a SONA code? A SONA code is a 5-digit anonymous ID code that is given to everyone with a SONA account. And this is supposed to protect your privacy as well as confidentiality when completing studies. Where to find your SONA code? So if you log into SONA and you go to your SONA homepage, you will see this item here on the right hand side, which is my profile. So you just need to click on it, and then under my profile you will see something labeled as identity code. So please make sure to add this code whenever prompted to provide it in a study. And again, most likely this is going to be for online studies. So in an online study, when you're asked to provide your SONA code, make sure that you're providing this 5-digit anonymous ID code, which is found under my profile on your SONA homepage. Do not provide your AUS ID in place of the SONA code. So if we ask you to provide the AUS ID, then please provide your AUS ID. But if we ask you to provide the SONA code, the AUS ID is not a substitute for the SONA code. And this is really important because we cannot grant credits. If the study asks for a SONA code, we cannot grant credits if you provide your AUS ID instead of your SONA code because there's no way to identify you since all of the responses are going to be completely confidential and anonymous. So the only thing that will allow us to identify your responses is the SONA code. So please make sure that you're providing it accurately. Now for penalties. If you sign up for a study and you do not complete it or you just forget to cancel on time, this incurs a penalty and you will be losing 40% of the total amount of credits assigned for a study. Likewise, if you enter the wrong SONA code, so I already spoke about the SONA code in the previous slide, and that's the 5-digit anonymous ID code that is given to everyone with a SONA account. So if you enter the wrong SONA code, so you enter your AUS ID instead of the SONA code or just entered the wrong SONA code, the same penalty will apply, which means that you will be losing 40% of the total amount of credits assigned for a study. If you show inattention when completing a study, or if you complete the same study more than once, the same penalty will apply and you will lose 40% of the total amount of credits assigned for a study. Now, with that being said, it's important to note that SONA can sometimes send you email reminders, just like this one, urging you to complete a study whenever a deadline for a study is approaching. Now, if this is a study that you have completed in the past, please do not do it again for the second time because you will lose points. Now, this happens because usually when we administer studies, specifically online studies, we administer them using a third platform such as Qualtrics, which is not really linked to SONA. It's a third-party platform that is not really linked to SONA. So there is no way for SONA to know whether you have completed a study on Qualtrics or not. So please just be mindful of that. If you have completed an online study, I would very highly recommend that you keep a written record. So whenever you complete an online study, take note of it so that you don't do it again for the second time. And as I mentioned, the penalty here is going to be the same regardless of the thing that you're doing. So it's going to be an unexcused no-show, which is a 40% deduction. Now, you can make up the points lost, which means that you can still earn the required 5, even if you do one of these penalties, but it's just an additional unnecessary step that can easily be avoided. So please just make sure that when you're signing up for studies, that you actually are attending the sessions that you have signed up for, and that you're paying sufficient attention when completing them as well. Now, it's worth noting that, and as I mentioned earlier in class as well, it's going to be your responsibility to consistently check SONA, especially if you're signing up for research participation. And that's because if you guys log into SONA, so now that you have a SONA account and you log into SONA, you click on View Available Studies, which is where you're going to find all of the studies that will be posted later on this semester. You won't be able to find the entire list of studies that will be posted from now until the end of the term at this point. And that's because we're going to be posting studies slowly on the system as these studies become available. And this is why I cannot be sharing with you guys the schedule for the studies, which again is why you need to do your part of consistently checking the system once or twice every week to make sure that you are always up to date with any new studies that are posted. So with that being said, all that I can tell you for now is that there are 8 or 9 studies that will be open to everyone. In addition to that, we're also going to have a couple of studies with restrictions. But again, it's my responsibility to make sure that I'm offering an alternative for those who won't be eligible for those studies. So as long as you guys are doing your part of consistently checking the system and signing up for studies and actually showing and attending those sessions on time, I will have to do my part of posting the sessions on the system. So there is no way that the semester is going to end without me posting at least 6 credits worth of studies. So please make sure that you take this into consideration early on in the semester so that you don't really fall into the same mistake that a lot of students fall into later on, where they just delay participating in studies until the last month or so of classes. The final thing I want to discuss with you guys is assigning SONA credits. Now, credits may not be assigned the minute you submit. This is going to be different for the lab orientation because you're going to be receiving your credits automatically once you're done with the lab orientation test, which will come right after this video. So you will be assigned your credits automatically. But for a lot of the studies, the principal investigators will need to look at individual submissions to check whether you guys have paid sufficient attention, and if not, maybe some points will be deducted. So this means that you should wait to receive your credits on the system, but you should receive them as long as you have participated in the study. So typically speaking, you should wait for 7 days after the last time slot scheduled for a study. So 7 days not from when you participated in the study, 7 days after the last time slot scheduled for a study. And as I indicated earlier, when studies are posted, they will typically be posted for a period of 2 weeks. This is true for lab-based studies. So a period of 2 weeks, so you guys can get ample opportunities to basically sign up and complete the study. So you have to wait for 7 days after the last time slot scheduled for that study in order to receive your credit. If you haven't received your credit by then you're welcome to email me or drop by my office and I will look into it for you. So that's it for now. Thank you guys so much for your time as well as attention. So all that's left at this point is to complete the lab orientation test. It's a very short test. and you will be provided feedback right away. So the system will correct you automatically if you get anything wrong. Best of luck, and let me know if you have any questions.